Hi, my name is Destiny Jenkins. I'm a teacher at Booker T. Washington High School in Shreveport, Louisiana. We're a part of the Caddo Parish school system, and my classroom is the English 1 classroom, teaching 9th grade students. I'll give you a little bit of information about my classroom. It is a very small class. It is my 4th hour class, and it does have a variety of students, I would say. Some of those students are categorized as SPED, some of us are 504, and then some of them are my average student. In this English 1 class, we use the guidebooks curriculum, which is the curriculum of the state, and the unit that we're focusing on this 9 weeks is A Lesson Before Dying. In this lesson, the goal was for students to read chapter 6 of A Lesson Before Dying. In this chapter, students were supposed to explore possible themes that kind of arise in the text by looking at the interactions between the characters. Their emphasis or their assessment of mastery was to focus on analyzing Grant's character using the skill of characterization. So prior to beginning this lesson, my students actually kind of started with this background history to the Jim Crow era. We worked through the article Jim Crow Laws by A&E, and they were able to get a pretty much comprehensive understanding of what was happening during that time period, what was the impact on African Americans, what are some of those events and how do those events translate into affecting characters' conflict, their possible interactions with other characters, and even their thoughts and mindsets that they have about themselves. Students also did a lot of work with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and we discussed, well, what does it mean to be truly a human? What does that look like? What does that feel like? We also discussed things that make a man, right? So this lesson honestly is a perfect standpoint to get our students acclimated with understanding what's happening in the beginning of this text. At every guidebook unit, the students are required to write a culminating writing task where they take the knowledge that they're gaining from the first lesson all the way to the end and use that to write this essay. So to adapt this lesson so that I can support all learners in my classroom, I typically use a variety of methods to reach each student differently. So in the classroom, we do a lot of turn and talk. We do whole classroom discussing. I try to do agree, disagree questions just so every learner feels that they can have this successful moment that'll motivate them to keep going. We do a lot of Post-it notes. We have anchor charts in the classroom. We slow down the pacing. I might work one-on-one or allow them to peer support each other. That way, each student is constantly being engaged and enriched in the classroom. Why do you agree with that statement? Yeah, during the Jim Crow time. Do you need a little bit of background? Okay, Farrah, what happened during the Jim Crow era?
Like it was around the slavery time.
Were we slaves?
No.
No.
Segregation.
It was segregation. Good job. So Jim Crow was a time of segregation. Jeriana, what is segregation? What did that look like for Black people or African Americans? Black codes. What did those black codes do, Shakayla?
Take away their humanity.
Took away their humanity. So if our rights are taken away, right, humanity is taken away, were African Americans treated unfairly or fairly? Unfairly. We're expected to still show respect. Raise your hand if you agree with that statement. Okay, hands down. Raise your hand if you disagree. Kenny, why do you disagree?
Because everybody can talk to me. When they want to talk to me, I ain't going to talk to you.
Okay, so Kenny, he's making it personal, right?
Yeah.
He's thinking about himself. He says, nobody's going to talk to me however they want to talk to me, when they want to talk to me, right? But let's place ourselves back in the Jim Crow era. Look all that banned it, but why was it unpopular?
Because they already knew.
They already knew the outcome. Is that similar to what we saw in the book?
Yeah.
When they kind of already knew the outcome of what would happen?
Yes.
Can somebody recall that situation? What was the circumstance in the novel where we saw that African Americans already knew the outcome of something? I suggest y'all go in your books and flip and find it, or go on your charts like Jeriana did. What was an example in
Jefferson.
with Jefferson? What happened with Jefferson where everybody in the court was like, yeah, we know what's gonna happen. We don't even have to sit here and watch it. He was given a death penalty, right? Okay. Jeremiah, why do you disagree?
I said,
Why do you agree? Why can education during that time period give you more power to change your circumstances?
like, they'll be more smarter and like know more stuff.
Okay, more knowledge. I know more things, and if I know more things, what can I possibly do?
Stand up for yourself.
I might can stand up for myself. Now, I saw a lot of people pick disagree. Can somebody argue Jeremiah's point? Jeremiah?
I don't have a entire chapter, but
It has said that like the reason why I say disagree is because, even if you do have an education, it's not gonna prove the white people anything. They still gonna treat you as a second class. They're not gonna treat you as a higher class like someone. So it really doesn't matter.
Now, I will say, I do agree with your statement. Let's not focus so much on white people, right? Let's focus on the what? The laws, right? So even if African Americans went, they got their education, you came back with a degree, what was the limitation put there?
Still treated as a second class.
You're still treated as second class by the what?
Law.
The law, right? And at that time period, did we have much say so in the laws?
No.
Knowing what those laws did, right? So this education factor, although it's a help to us now, did it benefit characters like Grant back then? No. So that brings us into our objective for today. Good job. We are reading chapter 6 of Ernest Gaines's A Lesson Before Dying. Our goal with doing this is so we can explore possible themes in the text using the characters' interactions with each other. One word or 2 words to describe it. Felix?
Like the central idea.
Central idea, right? It's the main part of that story. Somebody add on. What's another word I could possibly use? Jeremiah? Main message. Our knowledge about how the characters interact to track that theme. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now, what's the interaction? The way you communicate, right? It's how you talk to each other. What else could be an interaction? Do I have to talk to interact with somebody? It's my actions and words. So if I just walk up, and I just bump Jiriana, is that an interaction? Yes, it is. So when we're reading chapter 6, I want you to pay attention to who Grant Wiggins is talking to. What are they doing? What is that relationship and that experience like? You can see me say, whoa. Whoa. Now, before we get into chapter 6, I kind of want to do a little bit of background just to kind of prep those people that have not been here. Somebody raise their hand and tell me, what is Grant's role in the community? Who is he?
Teacher.
He's a teacher, right? So his job is to teach black students on a plantation, right? But is that all they expect of Grant? No. Somebody raise their hand and go a little bit further. He's not only the teacher of black students, he also has to teach who? Jefferson. Jeremiah, what does he have to teach Jefferson? How to be a man. But to teach a man how to be a man, what do you probably have to be?
A man.
A man, right? Now, are we talking a literal man? Like you have a body with flesh?
No,
we ain't talking about that. What are we talking about when we talk about being a man?
You have to have a mindset for yourself.
You have to have a certain mindset, right? What's that thing you have to have, Jiriana? Dignity. So that means that I have to have responsibility. I gotta stand up straight and tall, right? Somebody told me in 6 style, head up, what's out? Chest out. In what ways could we see Jefferson and Grant changing over 31 chapters of this novel? We feel like Grant and Jefferson will change. How will they change? Somebody raise their hand and share out. Jiriana?
Okay, so I feel like because they're like the same race and they're both black men, they will try to help each other out. And because they're both going through the same circumstances, so it would be only logical that they'll help each other out. But I have also my doubts because Grant, he don't seem so positive or sure that he can be a man himself. So he's wondering to himself, how can he help another man be a man when he can't be one himself? Okay, somebody raise your hand if you agree with Jiriana's point. You kind of see where she's coming from. Raise your hand if you agree. Hands down, raise your hand if you disagree. What do you think about Grant and Jefferson's transformation into men? Will they change?
Since like Grant had cut education, and Jefferson cut a big come to jail.
Mm-hmm.
And they both not men, so they both should change though.
How though?
By them both not being men, they should pick up on it together.
Together. Okay, so Felix is saying, I think that with Grant's education, right, and Jefferson's background, and kind of like this street life. And I mean, let's be honest here. Do we know people that kind of solely live in the street life, and do we know people that solely go the education route?
Yeah.
Yes, we do, right? Can you still learn from those people?
Yes.
We see them predominantly that we know. Dominant. What does it mean for something to be dominant or dominate?
Want it.
Not to want it. It's almost like to take over, right? So if I say this is a predominantly black high school, that means that most of the people are what? Black. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so if we're talking about a predominantly white setting, that means that I'm talking about a setting that has a lot of what? White people. How are African Americans expected to behave? Somebody raise your hand. Very demure, very cutesy, right? What does that mean though?
Very classy, very
Being proper, upper class. Now, but was I supposed to come in and say, hey, hi Mr. Calvin, how you doing? In a predominantly white space. Could I do that? Could I just walk in and shake his hand? No, I could not. What about entering? Would I enter in the front door? Would I enter in the back door? Why?
Because they black.
Yeah, but what is that a sign of?
Second class.
Being a second class citizen, right?
Yeah.
What about speaking? Could I just say, hey Kenny? No. If Kenny asks me a question.
How you doing?
I'm good, I'm straight. Could I respond like that? No, what do I have to add to the end of that? Sir, yes sir, yes ma'am, right? If I spoke, could I speak and make direct eye contact?
No.
I have to look at the ground. So with that understanding, what Ms. Jenkins wants you to do with your partner, I want you to read chapter 6. Think about that being of yourself being taken away. Think about the lack of humanity, okay? In Grant's character. I used the word doesn't again, but I did this one. That was on purpose, right? If he said I was being too smart and he didn't want me to come to the jail, my mom would definitely have to believe me. So he said it again because he didn't want to be too smart, right? So he can't be as smart. This man went to university, right? Why would it be?
What he said is real.
Like when she was like he's really old. I don't know. Yeah, like they have to be right? So I can't overshadow.
What he said until he real grandpa himself.
So back in the place of being poisoned. Now, once you know that his problem is that it's internal than external. You're supposed to read chapter 6 with your partner and answer 4 questions, analyzing Grant, his experiences with Mr. Aubrey P. Show, and his internal and external conflicts, okay? So let's look at number 1, y'all. Pencils down, everybody should be looking at me. Pencils down, everybody should be looking at me. Thank you. Let's look at number 1. What struggle does Grant feel as he's talking to Mr. Henry P. Show? Somebody raise their hand and share out. Tanaya.
He struggled to be himself because if he was too smart, he was too smart, he would be dehumanized.
Okay, so he struggled to be himself. If he would have been too smart in that moment, Tanaya is saying he would have been dehumanized. How do we know that though? What does it say in the text that lets us know that? Shakayla? Well, give us the page number first.
48.
Everybody go to 48.
It say if he had said I was being too smart and he didn't want me to come.
Number 2, is the conflict with Mr. P. Show internal or external? Now, a lot of people were saying it could be both. Tanaya?
I say internal, because he couldn't express how he felt.
Okay, so it's an internal problem because Grant was dealing and struggling with this problem where? In his mind. Closing the lesson, I do feel that most of my students were able to meet the objective. In the discussion, I found that as I was pacing through the lesson, the students showed and demonstrated that they did have a knowledge and understanding of who Grant's character is. Not just within the confines of the novel, but also beyond that and translating into who Grant is as a person in real life, right? A lot of my students were able to complete the 4 questions that were on the discussion board. However, I would say if I could go back, I would opt for more time for students to work independently so I can see if they were able to translate the information from the discussion, that background knowledge that they had, and then our whole class and peer support into them being able to complete something independently. I would also include a specific model just showing my students how to use the sentence starters that I provided them and giving them some type of structure when it comes to answering the question in a complete sentence. I think that's something that the students came to our school with, and it's something that they're still struggling with at this point in the year. This would definitely elevate their responses. We're definitely going to move forward with exploring those possible themes of isolation, humanity, and coming up in the novel. My goal is for them to be able to translate a lot of this discussion information into their theme development tracker. That way they're able to process and come back to something when it comes time to write their essay at the end of the unit. I'd like to add that teaching ninth grade students to think outside of themselves and think about these characters in these novels as real people is somewhat of a struggle. That's what kind of leads me into being very passionate about teaching English, because I want them to see that English is not just reading and writing. It is also them being able to understand their own experiences and the people around them's experiences and leave this classroom with a sense of community.